So we just finished up the fitting process. It's definitely a little bit different getting used to being able to hear my own voice a little bit louder. We made some adjustments so that it's not quite as loud, but you can certainly tell a difference. As far as feel, inside the ear, I can definitely feel it. Almost just feels like an earbud, a regular headphone earbud that would go in there. The right side feels like it's a little bit less noticeable than the left. Not that the left is any more loose or less loose. I can just notice it a little bit more in the left. It almost has like a tingly, like rubbing the follicles kind of feeling, but all in all, not too bad. The hearing aid itself, if you guys can see that, is actually very small. It looks like a Bluetooth headset. And these are from Signia. They're the Signia Active Pro. And so far, because I don't have major hearing loss, or even really minor hearing loss, the goal is to just get an idea of how comfortable they are to wear. If I notice the differences in slight amplification from different sounds and things like that, different user experiences, so I'll be trying them out at the gym, family functions, in the car with my wife, where I can focus to where, you know, whether I'm passenger and she's driving or I'm driving and she's passenger, I can focus the sound as opposed to hearing the kids in the back. So I'm just going to take it through a handful of different situations, and then at the end I'll be able to give a pretty good review on how well they work for me, so that you guys can see how well they might work for you. I'll also do a sit down with Scott, as we typically do with our regular reviews, and be able to walk through some different functionalities of the app, what I noticed, what I liked, what I disliked. So far everything is going well, but I will keep you guys up to date as we go. It is day 2 after wearing them for roughly 7 hours or so yesterday. Yesterday I did not go to the gym. I generally go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week, so I'm curious to see what happens today when I'm not only in a loud environment, but also listening to music. So that will be a good test. This weekend I'm going to a live show, so I'll be curious to see how I do with the speakers, the crowd, the noise. But just a couple of things that I did notice yesterday. I had the primary focus just set to automatic, so it would adjust the directional mics wherever the sound needed to be. And I noticed that when I was in the truck, while the music was playing and it wasn't very loud, after I picked my kids up, every time they were talking to me, it actually made it much easier to be able to hear them. I could tell that it almost dampened the sound to the left and right of me and a little bit in front, and it was able to focus on what they were saying. Whereas normally I would have to kind of do this to listen to them, because both my children are fairly soft-spoken, and I noticed I didn't have to do that. So that was actually a really cool feature of the hearing aids. When I got home, the average sounds that I don't normally pay attention to, the small dogs with their nails click-clacking on the floor. Typically it would be something I would just kind of numb out, but it was something that I could very much so hear. I could hear more detailed sounds. When I was doing a zipper, usually it's just the initial zip, but I could almost hear like every single zip come together as I was going. So I could easily see how within a few days somebody could have sensory overload and need their hearing aids to be readjusted. I feel like I'm at a comfortable level, and it's just a mental adjustment, but I could definitely see if the volume was up too loud, hearing all of those different sounds, especially since I don't have hearing loss. Going from being able to kind of hear certain things to hearing every single detail, to me was actually pretty cool. But I could see how somebody that has or suffers from hearing loss, who has never heard the sound of a zipper in quite some time, or didn't even notice that the dog's nails were, click-clacking on the floor, I could easily see how hearing all of that and very loud at once could be sensory overload. So I definitely understand why it makes sense for people to come back and see us to get their hearing aids adjusted so frequently within the first few weeks to months. Is all of those little nuances need to be kind of accounted for, and slowly have the gain go up so that they can adjust and make sense of everything that they're hearing. So far, first day, very impressed. Again, I had them in for about 7 hours. Didn't really stream much, just a little bit from my phone. But this morning, I went on my morning walk. So I had them in at 6 a.m. and I walked for about 25-30 minutes while I was listening to a podcast. I will say the one thing that I noticed is they do not replace headphones, so to speak. But the benefit, and I'll kind of explain what I mean, the benefit is that it's directly into your ear. I have multiple sets of Bluetooth headphones, some that are on the ear, some that are in the ear, and they seemingly just project sound into your ear, whereas these are more of a direct, it's almost like the person talking is inside my head rather than just in my ear being pumped in, if that makes sense. So I found that I didn't have to turn the volume up nearly as loud, which was really nice. I will see how long the battery will last today because I'll be streaming. I've streamed for about a half hour today. At the gym, it'll probably be an hour to an hour and a half, and then I will most likely be streaming a little bit when I get home. Usually I listen to some podcasts while I'm getting home, feeding the dogs, cleaning, just kind of going through my day-to-day stuff. So very curious to see, but so far I am impressed. I love the simplicity of these devices. I think these are really nice. There's no touch functionality, so there's nothing that I have to mess with, which is nice. I can just do it all from the app. I'm a very app-driven person. I'm 33 years old, so I found it very easy to be able to download the app, to connect the hearing aid, to make my way through the app, make adjustments. And so I feel like those that are in my same position that do suffer from hearing loss would gratefully benefit from hearing aids that are this simple but work this well. So I'm gonna go about my day, and then I will check in tomorrow and give you feedback on how the gym went and other happenstances throughout the day. So I'm excited. Good morning. It is day number 3, and I noticed quite a few things yesterday, having put them through a few, I guess what you could call real life situations. Number 1, I'll start with the good, is I wore them yesterday from about 5:30 a.m. until roughly 7 o'clock p.m. So 14 hours. I streamed for about 30 to 45 minutes in the morning, and I streamed audio a little bit throughout the day, as well as about an hour and a half while I was at the gym. And at 7 p.m. the battery life had just hit about 50%. So the battery life on these are great. Definitely something that I could most likely wear for about 2 days. It does come with a charging case. It gives it one full charge, as well as being able to have that case plugged in so you can charge it while it's in the case. I don't think that power or battery life is an issue with these. With that being said, very impressed by the battery life capability on these. The second thing was the situational adjustment for being in a noisy environment. I noticed that it kind of just lowered everything down. Now, being that this is my first experience with any sort of hearing aids, I don't really have anything to compare it to, but there were some pros and cons to that. I'll start with the pros, which were, although I was streaming music while at the gym and I had it set to noisy environment over automatic, it lowered my music volume substantially. So I don't know how well the noisy environment actually worked. I did pause my music for a little bit to listen, but it seems like overall it just kind of brought down the total volume that was coming in, which if I'm in a noisy environment, I have access to the app, I can kind of turn that down on my own. So I didn't notice a big difference there. Again, the one thing that I did really like is the way that the music plays. I noticed even though the music was low, because it was directly going into my ears, I could still have conversations, I could listen to the music, and it did, I won't say it blocked out the sound, but it did make for more of a comfortable ambient sound around me. So it's not like it was competing, where normally if I had regular Bluetooth headphones in, I'm competing for either my music or the music being played at the gym or the person talking to me. So I guess in that aspect, I will say that it did a very good job of being able to mute the outside kind of noise, be able to still pick up the voice of my training partner that I work out with, and be able to hear the music. So that was nice. I just feel like I could have done potentially the same thing from the app and just gone in and lowered the total volume down a little bit. So overall, I was very impressed. It was nothing that was horrific or bad. I just would have liked to see some more, I guess, maybe adjustments within that, but not having anything to compare it to, that might be how they all are. So all in all, I was very impressed, very satisfied with having them at the gym. Full of other things. When I got home, I did notice that with the adjustment, and it could just be me, with the adjustment set to 0, there's one adjustment that either gives you a little bit more treble or a little bit more bass. Those are your options. Up is treble, down is bass. I noticed that when I had that set to neutral, a lot of things sounded very, very tinny. Even the music, although I added, I think it was about +3 to the bass, which would have been -3 to the treble, because whatever you do to one, it automatically minuses the other. It still came out a little tinny. So again, not having anything to really compare it to. When it comes to listening to music, I would say that this is not their main priority. It wasn't bad, but I just didn't feel like I was getting a full sound. I'm somebody who's very big into music. I like nice full sound, and I just feel like it lacked a little bit of that full sound. I would like to see just a more fuller spectrum of sound. All in all, I think it definitely served the purpose on being in a loud environment, being able to hear the person talking to me, and being able to hear my music. So it did a good job. It didn't do a great job, but it also didn't do a bad job. So that is the review for day number 3. Today, I'll be putting it through essentially the same thing as yesterday. Oh, and wearability. Being that I had them in for about 14 hours, I did not notice much ear fatigue. Usually if I did, and it's actually kind of right now, because of where they rest, I do feel it a little bit right in here, but I've had them in for about an hour now, and generally once I hit about the 2.5-3 hour mark, it no longer bothers me. We have a couple more days and a few more tests to put it through, and then we will see what the final thoughts are. Day 5, and having worn the hearing aids over the weekend, there were some things that I actually really enjoyed about them. So Saturday, I went to a small show. I found that in the auditorium, I had no issues hearing everything. It didn't sound too overwhelming or tinny. It wasn't very loud. So with that being said, I just kept it in automatic mode. I did not need to put it into the noisy environment. Everything worked very well, so I was very pleased with that. Sunday, being 4th of July, there was a large fireworks show where I was at, and tons of people. So a lot of people, a lot of little kids. I found that, again, being that things were spaced out enough because it was in a very large open area, I did not need to put it into the noisy environment mode. But again, having a crowd of people around me with specific people talking to me, I found that the directionality on the mic of where it was adjusting sound to come in and where it was blocking sound out did a very, very good job. So overall, I was very impressed. My thoughts on just a total experience. I think that these definitely blur the lines of hearing aids and wearables, which I love to see, because I think that it's going to be able to draw a larger crowd from a younger demographic that may be experiencing hearing loss but don't want to have the stigma of wearing full-on hearing aids. The way that these fit, the look, everything about the physical aspect of them is very, very nice. They were easy to wear. They did not hurt. Again, I had them in for 1 or 2 days, over 13 hours, and my ears were not sore. So I really enjoyed that. A couple of things that I would have liked to have seen improved upon is the app from Signia is very lackluster. You have a total of 3 adjustments within the app, and that's your environment setting, which is set by the audiologist. So if you have multiple settings, then I could see how that would be okay. The sound adjustments that I had access to was either more bass or more treble. As one went up, the other went down. You cannot do both. And then there was a mask mode, which I noticed a little bit of a difference in. Basically just heightening certain frequencies so that people that are wearing masks, you can hear them a little bit better. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, especially if the demographic that they're aiming for is kind of a younger crowd. If not, then it was very simple, it was very intuitive, so I will give it that, but I personally would have liked to have had a little bit more control. When it came to music, I think that that's where they fall a little bit flat. Literally, there was not a whole lot of dynamic sound when it came to music listening. Obviously, that's not the first reason that you're buying hearing aids, but for many, it is a very important factor. And I just feel with the lack of amount of control that I had over my music and the fact that it just came out very hollow sounding, and I wouldn't quite put myself at an audiophile, but I do enjoy my music, and having worked in an audio background for a few years, I definitely understand what good audio sounds like. If you're somebody who really enjoys your music, these are not the hearing aids for you. If you are somebody who has a minor or moderate hearing loss and you are conscious about wearing a hearing aid that goes behind your ear, then I highly recommend these. I think that they're a great hearing aid. They're very easy to wear. They work very well. The settings in the app are very intuitive, very easy to use. Overall, I would recommend these for somebody that has a minor to moderate hearing loss. I think they do very well at that. So I hope this has helped you out a lot. This has been my review of the Signia Active Pro, and the next time you catch me, I will be sitting down with Scott Frink, Salem Audiology Clinic's owner here, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper of the pros and cons of the review and what I thought on the Signia Active Pro. So thank you very much, and until next time.